Morning, everyone. Our Bible reading today comes from Deuteronomy 15, verses 7 to 11. If anyone is poor among your fellow Israelites in any of the towns of the land that the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted towards them. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend them whatever they need. Be careful not to harbour this wicked thought. The 7th year, the year for cancelling debts, is near, so that you do not show ill will towards the needy among your fellow Israelites and give them nothing. They may then appeal to the Lord against you, and you will be found guilty of sin. Give generously to them and do so without a grudging heart. Then because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in everything you put your hand to. There will always be poor people in the land. Therefore, I command you to be open-handed towards your fellow Israelites who are poor and needy in your land. Thanks, Sarah. Sarah's going to come up and share a message with us.
Wonderful. It's such a privilege to be with you today. My name is Sarah. I'm from Mission Without Borders, as Tim explained before. Your church has been supporting the work of Mission Without Borders for a really long time. And it's really exciting that I not only get to come and finally visit you, I also get to come on a day when you're having a baptism. That is really special. So thanks, Liam, for what you shared before. That was incredibly touching. I want to start off by sharing family photos because as the visiting speaker, this is the thing you do. The family photo that we have in the top corner there, that is from 2019. Unfortunately, all family photos after that involved pyjamas, thanks to COVID. So we don't have a more up-to-date family photo of everybody together. But this is my husband, Steve, my daughter, Eden, and my son, Daniel. Daniel's 20, Eden's 16, and I'm really blessed that we get along really well as a family because, family can be interesting. But, we're really blessed. Steve and I have been doing ministry together for a long time. We haven't been with Mission Without Borders the whole time. We actually started with another organisation and had served Christ overseas in Southeast Asia. When I came to Mission Without Borders, though, we really did not have a good idea of Eastern Europe. I knew very little about it. So I'm going to start off by sharing a little bit about the organisation and about what it is that God has been doing through the organisation for a while. Because this passage from Deuteronomy, it's an unusual one. It's not one that people will often choose to preach on. It's not often that you get something quite that negative or, some people also like to avoid some parts of the Old Testament because it's a bit boring going through the law. However, even though we are no longer people under the law teaches us a lot about God's heart. And one of the things that is throughout some of these Old Testament passages is actually God's heart for the marginalised, God's heart for the people who face poverty, God's heart for the widow, for the orphan. And so that's why I wanted to share this with you as a reminder that God's heart has always been for all people, not just for the leaders of the nation, not just for the rulers and powers, not for those who have it all together. God's heart is for those who need him. Unfortunately, there will always be poor. We cannot solve this problem in this lifetime, but we can do something about it. We are not stuck in this place. So that's what I want to share with you about today, because as a church, I know that you are doing something about it. I know that you partner with more than just Mission Without Borders. You partner with multiple organisations who have a real heart to see God's kingdom come in the here and now. So Mission Without Borders has medium-length history when it comes to mission. We started in the 1960s by an American woman who started smuggling Bibles and Christian materials into Eastern Europe and into China, so into communist countries. So we started off with the name Underground Evangelism. Our purpose was to support the church that was facing incredible opposition in those places. Then some of you would remember, not all of you, but some of you remember the falling of the Berlin Wall and the way communism ended. The church had an amazing role in that through prayer and through just proclaiming the truth of who God is and his love for all people. So at the time of the fall of the Berlin Wall, we were still working alongside churches and working to empower them, to resource them any way we could. We changed our name in 1992 because we're no longer underground, which, praise God, we were able to register in a lot of Eastern European countries. But around that time, that is when Romania ended the totalitarian government of Ceausescu. And if you were around at that time, you would remember the pictures of the orphans that were on the news when they opened up these government orphanages and children had been left in their cots without being touched, without being loved, without being fed properly even. And so through the local churches, we started to work with these children. We started a child sponsorship program. Volunteers from local churches would go into the orphanages and love these kids and tell them that God loved them. So that's what we started in the 1990s. Very quickly, the local churches came to us and said, we need more. We need love for families. Families are suffering incredibly. With the end of communism, a lot of the support networks within these countries broke down. Christian families were under a lot of pressure, and there was incredible poverty and unemployment. So at that point, we started a family sponsorship program, and that expanded in 2015 to include community programs that happen from local churches. The countries where we now work, we work in 6 countries in Eastern Europe: Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Moldova, Romania, and Ukraine. Now, all of us have probably heard of Ukraine, but when I came along to the organisation, I didn't know that Moldova was a real country. I thought it was something like from a princess story, Disney princess story. But it is. It's a real country that's sandwiched between Romania and Ukraine, and there's an incredible amount of poverty there. In fact, in all of these countries, poverty is still an ongoing issue in ways that you can't imagine. Well, hopefully very soon I'll share with you. I have actually just returned from Eastern Europe about 3 weeks ago. I was over there. We meet once a year, all the directors from the different countries, to learn from one another, to hear from one another, and to look at our strategy for the future. I try and only go once a year because it is expensive to get to Europe. So I add on an extra time while I'm away and visit some of our projects as well. And this time I was able to visit Romania. It was my first time in Romania, and I have to admit, when I landed in the city, it was beautiful. Mountains around, snow-capped. The city was really old, stunning. People go there for holidays from Europe, even though it's not a major holiday destination from Australia. But you get out of the cities and you start to see something different. And when our coordinator took me out to visit places, I find on each trip there's always one family or one person who hits my heart hard. And this family here is the family that really hit my heart hard on this trip. The father's name is Nikolai. He is a single father of 7 children. His wife left about 7 years ago when their youngest was very little. We don't know where she is. She has no contact with the kids. And he's left on his own to care for his children, but he is unemployed. He works as a day labourer when he can get work, but most of the time it's things like selling wood in the local village, carrying water, and just doing odd jobs. So the amount he gets paid is minimal. Sometimes he doesn't get paid in cash, he'll get paid with something else. When we came to their house, it's the size of that little house there. It's actually one room, and it would probably, it's not as wide as this room here, probably about 2/3 along and halfway across. So 8 of them live in this one-room house. There is no kitchen. There is no bathroom. There is no running water at all. So the kitchen you see a wood stove up the top there, that heats the room as well as being the kitchen. So Nikolai had only just finished cooking dinner for the family. They were eating potato stew, which was potatoes and water and not much else. It had been absolutely bucketing with rain that day. And as we went to get there, we drove to the edge of the village and the road ran out. And so we were driving along this mud path and the car was slipping and sliding. The driver was 23, so I was a little bit nervous. But we got up a hill on the mud and as the rain was bucketing down, there was also a lot of wind. And I don't know if you can see the top of the chimney of that wood stove, but it doesn't go up through the roof. It goes out the side of the house, and it's not fully sealed. So the brickwork is kind of knocked out around it, and it's not sealed. So as the wind blew, all the smoke got blown back into the room. So it was a very hazy, dark room. For electricity, they have a single light bulb from the ceiling, and the way they get electricity is they borrow it. So they don't pay for it. And an extension cord ran right across the field to their house from an auntie's house. And that's how they have their one bulb. There is no bathroom. In the bottom picture, you can see that's their vegetable patch. That's where the potatoes came from for their dinner. And in the corner, there's that cloth hanging up. That's the toilet. That is, the cloth hanging up is just to provide privacy. As we're talking to Nikolai about his situation and the struggles he has, he said he just cried. Every day, what he's trying to do is put food on the table for his family. That's all he thinks about doing from morning till night. Every night he goes to bed shaking, and he showed us his hands shaking because he has worked so hard, and yet they can't get out of this hole. There is no way to break this cycle of poverty. When I think of Nikolai, I think of a passage in James. Do we have it here? Yeah. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself is not accompanied by action. That's not accompanied by action is dead. You know, Nikolai has no space in his life to think about God. And if we went in there and we said to him, "God bless you, Jesus loves you," that's not going to mean anything to him unless he can get food on his table. Because that food is what he's thinking about every day. He doesn't have time to listen to a sermon. He doesn't have time to sit and read the Bible. In fact, he's illiterate. What we can do is change the situation for him, which then changes the situation for the local church as well. Because the local government doesn't care for Nikolai in the way that the church does. And the local community has ostracised them. They're on the edge of the village. They're not in the heart of the village. They're not a part of that community. But that's where the local church can step in, and that's where you have also stepped in. The way that we approach helping people like Nikolai is through family and child sponsorship. And there's a lot of organisations that do this. We do it entirely through the local church. We don't employ anybody in any of these countries. We don't send missionaries to any of these countries because we employ locals. And the locals that we employ are sometimes the pastor of the church. They're employed part-time as the pastor, part-time as a worker with us. Or sometimes it's just a member of the congregation. But they are what we call local coordinators, and they help to coordinate this program, and they really integrate it with what their church is doing. So we journey with a child or a family for 5 to 10 years, sometimes a little longer, depending on what their needs are. And our aim is to see them fully integrated into the local community, thriving and self-sufficient in how they live. So we partner with the local churches to bring transformation, and we do it through practical help, that emergency box of food that we bring. We also bring things like soap for people to use and other hygiene products. Education is really important for the kids, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Emotional support, and that's where the church plays a huge role by welcoming them into the church community. And spiritual support. All of our programs have a spiritual element to it. Nobody is forced to become a part of the church. Nobody has to do any of the spiritual stuff, but we pray for them. And most of the people that we work with want our prayer. They ask for it. We have, it blows my mind, we have about 1,000 kids who do a Bible correspondence course just because we offer it. There have been times where we've gone into a community, we've been giving them the emergency support, and what the coordinator said, well, would you like to have a Bible study? One of the women did that. She said to all the mums, would you like a Bible study? 40 people turned up the first week. The next week, the men wanted to come too, and so they were forced to plant a church. It's amazing what God is doing and how important community and the spiritual aspect of what we do is, and the fact that it's integrated. One of the things that I love that is an extra add-on to the family and child sponsorship is after-school clubs. So we have the core program of where we sponsor the family and journey with them towards their self-sufficiency. But then we have these extra programs that boost it. And one of the programs that does this best is the after-school clubs. The kids turn up there each afternoon and they're given educational support, they're given food, they're given a safe place to be. They're off the streets. They're given Christian input. There's usually games and stories and songs, and they're also given showers and washing machines. Now think back to Nikolai and his family. If one of his boys is going to school, and the 4 youngest children do, they go to school. In Romania, education's free, but they have to buy their own pencils and pens and books and bags. Nikolai has no money for that, so they turn up without the things that they need. They haven't had a shower, their clothes haven't been washed, their shoes are broken, and so the other kids don't want to sit next to them because they smell. They're ostracised, they won't play with them. When they are given homework at the end of the day, they go home, there's no food, they have to do jobs around the house to help out. Nikolai's never been to school, so he doesn't know what homework is or how it should be done. And so quite often, when there's no desk in the house, there's just that one room and there's 7 of them, the kids go back to school the next day without the homework done. They are not going to stay at school. But with the after-school program, their stomachs get filled so they can think. They get a teacher volunteers to be there to help them with their homework and to teach them. And a lot of the kids are referred to us from the local school saying, this is a kid that needs help. And they see an incredible difference in their education. It's a safe place, and those showers and washing machines, we don't have them in all of the community centres, but when we do, they're well used. They're a really important part of helping families integrate with the rest of their community when they can be clean. We don't just get alongside the kids, we also have what we call self-sufficiency projects. So when a family has worked their way through the program, they start off in this emergency situation. We help with food, we get alongside them, we journey with them, we include them in the community. And when they've got time to think, when they've had that stress relieved from them, they can then think about, well, what next? How do I stand on my own feet? How do I break this cycle of poverty? And so our coordinator will sit down with them and say, well, what skills do you have? What resources do you have? How can we help educate you? And it might be that they get some training that will help them to get a job. In Romania, 37% of the population is unemployed. That is a very high level. And you go into these villages and there's not really anything there apart from some farms. So they might be a day labourer in the farms, but that doesn't work in winter. So what we do is we set up self-sufficiency projects with families to get them to the point where they don't need us anymore. They're fully integrated with the community and we are no longer needed. So we do it in three ways. We give agricultural products, particularly seeds, things like hoses, fertiliser, that sort of stuff, to families who have some land that can grow things. This first photo up here was a family in Albania that I went to. That's their front yard. They have used every bit of land they can to grow vegetables. And some of the families produce enough to sell. It's not just to feed their own family, they can also sell the products to someone else. We also offer scholarships. Now this guy in the middle, his name is Flavia. He is a gorgeous guy. He started off in one of these sponsored families. There were 10 children there still are 10 children in his family. Apparently it was very cute that the coordinator would turn up at the house and it would be boop, 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 these little kids all in a row coming out the door to say hello. Turns out that he did pretty well at school. He was not only able to stay at school, he actually did well enough to go on to the next level and wanted to go to university. So he's now studying medicine at university, and it was an Australian who gave him a scholarship. We have a scholarship program. He has done so well at university that the Romanian government is covering his tuition fees because he's at the top of his class in medicine. He is an amazing guy. But yeah, so we cover his living expenses and help him get through university. So we do this for a number of students. They're not all top of the class. But here's just one example of somebody who's given a chance and where they can get to. So I look forward to seeing how God continues to use him. The third way that we work is to help people start their own business. And when there's no employment, this is really, really useful. And we've had a 90% success rate with the businesses. So the lady here is from Albania. She was a victim of domestic violence and she had escaped with her daughter. They had nothing, nowhere to live, no furniture, no food, and she had no employment. So we took her through the family sponsorship program. And as she got to the point of needing to find self-sufficiency, she said, you know what, I'd love to start a pizza shop. I make good pizzas. I'd love to start a pizza shop. So we provided the tools for her. We provided a pizza oven, bench space, and helped her to rent a little shop. She bought vegetables from somebody else who had a greenhouse project. So some of the families who were growing the vegetables, that's where she got her vegetables from. And she started this little shop. Now she is doing well enough not only to support herself and to put her daughter through university, she also volunteers at the local church. She cooks the food that's sent to the after-school club every day so that the kids are getting fed, and she volunteers at our summer camps as well and shares Jesus with the kids. She is an incredible woman. You go into the shop and there's some Bibles and some literature for people to sit and read if they want to while they're there. She is not only self-sufficient, she is being a blessing to the next generation of people. She has been blessed and continues to bless. And this is why I really want to share the story with you, because as a church, you've been blessing these people for a long time, not knowing where the money goes, not knowing what happens to it, knowing that good things are happening, but not really seeing the fruit yourselves. Well, the fruit that you have seen come from the seeds that you've planted is now also producing fruit. The next generation are the volunteers who help out in the program as well. I want to just touch on Ukraine because this is a bit of a big issue, obviously in the news quite a lot. While I was in Albania, I met with our director for Ukraine. He was telling me that since the 1st of January, they've only had 3 nights where the sirens haven't gone off. And so they have been under a lot of stress. We know all of our workers there are suffering from PTSD. They work in Western Ukraine where the war is not raging. So where the front line is in Eastern Ukraine. We had to close down our projects there. Most of the population that could left, there is still many people left behind. And we helped a lot of the internally displaced people as they move towards the west. And we continue to offer extra support to families who've relocated. But drones are hitting the west as well at the moment. Just last week, we got a message to say, please pray. We run summer camps for about 1,000 kids in the Ukraine, where we can take them out of their stressful situation, take them away for a week, teach them to brush their teeth, because some of them are from these families that really struggle. But for others, it's just a chance to be a kid, to be away from the stress of war and to play. So we did that with 1,000 kids, but it's spread over several weeks. We divide them up into groups. One of the groups had to spend the entire night in a bomb shelter because of the drones and the missiles coming over to the west. So please pray for Ukraine. Pray with us for these people. It's the everyday people that get hurt. It's the children who have grown up in an environment where everybody around them has PTSD. And it's really hard. Some kids have missed years of school. They went straight from COVID into war. And so those kids who weren't able to attend school during COVID suddenly couldn't attend school because of the war. So the educational outcomes are going to be pretty awful. We have 4 regions in eastern Ukraine. The very day that peace is declared, we have plans to go and work with local churches in those regions. So we have the relationship, we have the connections. We're not going to be rebuilding buildings. The government will do that. The big businesses will do that. Our heart is to see lives rebuilt, to get alongside families, to get them back up on their feet, and to work with local churches to rebuild community. So we'll be working again entirely through local churches to see that happen. Now, as a church, you are already involved. I think sometimes when we hear about poverty and when we read Bible verses that says the poor will always be with you, it can be very discouraging. Because we know that it's very hard to break this cycle of poverty. But there are things that can be done, and hopefully what I've shared with you this morning shows that God is at work in these places. He is working in the lives of individuals. He is using those who were broken. He's not only healing them, but he's using them to bless others. And with that hope, there are things that we can do. We don't have to feel powerless when we think about these things. We can be a part of what God is doing to break the cycle of poverty. And for us, prayer is really important. I have some prayer notes out on a table out there. In fact, all this information's out on a table. Feel free to take it. Please take it, because I don't want to have to carry it back on the plane with me. So, yeah, the more you take, the better. But there's some prayer notes there, and you can sign up for prayer if you want to continue to pray for these people. Family sponsorships are always available. And we've made it more affordable for people by dividing a family sponsorship into 4 spots. Each spot's $45. So if you want to support the entire program for one family, you can by paying 4 lots of that. Or if you want, you can just do one of those spots and help a family break that cycle. The money that this church gives and that is raised through the markets and things like that the group are involved in, that normally goes to our community centres, where we do soup kitchens, where we do the after-school projects, where we do those extra things that support and boost the families. If you've got an interest in self-sufficiency or scholarships, that information's there, as well as information about fundraisers. But yeah, like I said, please don't leave any of the magazines or anything. Pass them on to someone else. Invite others to get involved. Let them know that there's opportunities out there. The good news about Nikolai is that even though he himself is not sponsored, 4 of his children are, and they are all going to be getting the support that they need. The emergency boxes of food will come to them. A couple of the older children were out looking for work the day that we were there, and so we will support them to be able to find employment. He's now in the program, and he's now getting support. There was a conversation with the coordinator when we were there about getting shoes for the kids and some warm clothes. They're heading into summer, but it was still really cold. I think it's just cold there all year round. You would freeze because you're from Queensland. I found it cold and I'm from New South Wales. So, yeah, but getting things for these kids and helping them then relieves Nikolai's stress so that he can then do more and feel connected to his community. The 23-year-old who was driving us is their coordinator, and he runs an after-school program, and 3 of the boys were at that. And those kids, they just lit up as they were singing worship songs, as they were playing games and hearing stories, hearing what God has done. You could see that God was doing something in their lives. And it's all because churches like you were willing to get alongside them and be Christ to them. So I want to thank you very much for what you have done to change lives like theirs. And I'm going to pray for you now, because I think this is a really special church. You are a very special church in what you do. Let me pray. Lord, I thank you that you have really blessed this church. You have brought this community together who care for one another, who support one another, who live life together. And the way that you have used people in this community has been a blessing, not only for this local neighbourhood, but to far-flung places, even places as far away as Moldova and Romania. Lord, I do pray that you will continue to use them. May they see the fruit of their work. Lord, may you help them to see what you are doing through their generosity and the way that they have lived with open hands as a blessing to others. May it also be a blessing to them that continues to pour on them, that they can testify to your goodness, testify to what you have done and continue to do in bringing your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen.